When you look at these photos, what does it make you feel? Calm? At peace? Wonder? Or maybe lost? From these photos, I usually get a sense of nostalgia, or anemoia if you weren't born and raised in this era, a longing for a time you never experienced. These simple yet very beautiful backgrounds do more than just decorate a desktop. They capture real places in their time in the past, sharing places for entire generations to come. At first glance, it can seem as though they aren't real, but they very much are. Although the bliss, tulips, and other backgrounds do not look like they did back in the 90s and early 2000s. Generally because you couldn't reach them, or they're on private property. But what about Azul? Sure, the others are well known enough to where people actively searched for them and succeeded in tracking them down. But what about this tranquil, serene peace in the South Pacific? Does it even exist? And where is it exactly? Before I get started, I would like to thank Michael MJD and Nation Squids for their amazing documentaries on both Bliss and Autumn. Another thanks goes to Unusual Antics, as he explains in his video how these photos transcend just being another product of their time. Instead, with masterful composition, it still inspires and calms the minds of many today. With that out of the way, is Azul real? And what can we find out about this small little island sailing the ocean blue? Azul was taken by Bill Ross in 1991, the same year that Tulips was taken, also photographed by Bill Ross. Bill was half owner of Westlight, a stock photo agency company in the 80s and 90s. In 1991, Bill Ross was interested in taking tropical stock photos during a trip to the South Pacific and traveled to Aitutaki, located in the Cook Island chain. He arranged a private boat tour in the South Lagoon of the island. That is where this photo was taken. That is the story behind the photo. We know of this because the Redditor had messaged Bill Ross himself about 6 years ago, and he himself confirmed the info about where it was taken and roughly where it was. However, the small island consisting of 3 palm trees and a small patch of sand was not the only one in the area. As Ross himself stated, the tiny island pictured is one of many ringing the Aitutaki Lagoon south of the main island. Which means that tiny island in that photo was one of many south of Aitutaki in the lagoon. Which means we have to find it. Looking through Google Earth, we find that there are not many islands left through the lagoon, either from rising sea levels or that the storms over the years have eroded the many islands, big and small. Looking at the Google Earth images and photospheres people have submitted, the location does not seem to be very obvious to any eyes. Nothing screams, "I'm here, this is the spot." Most of the islands of the lagoon are rather large and full of trees, with long, wide beaches extending into the waters. Starting off in the East Lagoon, we have no real potential match for the photo. The islands are long with full, lush trees on every part of the island, with some rather large sandbanks stretching into the lagoon, so not very promising. Going into the middle, there's nothing really, just the beautiful blue waters that surround the main island. Finally, in the West Lagoon, we have a promising candidate. Honeymoon Island. Small, and with a plethora of palm trees on a relatively small patch of sand connected to the sandbank, this could be the location in this very photo. However, we will truly never know. In the photo, there's no hint of any kind to help us navigate where Bill really was. He was on a boat, on the water. The main island is not in the photo, and no other small island appears in the background. In the 1973 and 1975 joint Apollo-Soyuz program, photos of Aitutaki were taken. Honeymoon Island and several others have not fully developed in where they are now from those photos. From this, we can assume three things. 1. It happened to have grown as a keystone of a smaller island, like Honeymoon Island, becoming enveloped in a miniature forest in one of the larger islands. 2. That the island is gone or completely different from what it was in 1991, either from a bad storm between then and now. 3. That the fauna has died out completely, leaving a barren piece of sand in the quaint, translucent lagoon today. In the end, maybe that's the beauty of Azul. Its mystery. While the island itself may have changed, eroded, or even disappeared beneath the waves, its image remains frozen in time, capturing a feeling that's hard to describe. Much like bliss, tulips, and autumn, it reminds us that these wallpapers aren't just pixels on a screen. They're memories, preserved from a world that once was. Whether the island still exists or not doesn't really matter, because in a way, it's already immortal, drifting forever in that endless sea of blue.